Tonight's case is one of the most haunting stories in American history, criminal history that is, where two children just 12 and 13 years old became the youngest people ever convicted of murder in the United States. Curtis and Catherine Jones grew up in a home filled with fear, instability, and years of documented abuse. Their childhood wasn't just difficult, it was a constant fight for survival. In 1999, everything reached a breaking point. The children shot and killed their father's girlfriend. A decision, prosecutors said, was planned, but advocates argued was an act of desperation. However, despite their age, both children were charged as adults and sentenced to 18 years in prison. The case sparked outrage across the country and raised a painful question. And I was going to say a painful decision as well. But what happens when the system fails children long before they ever commit a crime? So hi, and welcome to Twin Watch 777. So as you know, we're going to be discussing the case of Curtis and Catherine Jones.
Welcome to the world of legal controversies and mystery. Is stranger than fiction, and justice is just a word. Today we are diving into the case of Catherine and Curtis Jones, a story that has captured the attention of the nation and sparked debates about the legal system, morality, and justice.
How young they look. They're just like little babies.
Catherine's birth date may be a mystery, but we do know she arrived in 1985 as the first bundle of joy for her proud parents, Curtis Jones and Stacy Parks. However, the facade of a perfect family was merely a mask for the dark truth. Stacy suffered from constant physical abuse at the hands of Curtis, starting from early on in their relationship. Tragically, one of Curtis's violent outbursts while Stacy was pregnant with Catherine resulted in a premature birth and a tear in Stacy's uterus. But despite the hardships, the family grew stronger with the arrival of their second child, Curtis Fairchild Jones, on May 31st. To the young children, their parents' love and presence was all that mattered, and they cherished each other's company. But behind closed doors, Stacy continued to endure Curtis's abuse, hiding the truth from her children's innocent eyes. Despite it all, the family preserved and held on to the love that they shared. Speculation has it that the children eventually became aware of the difficult situation at home. For Stacy, the burden became too much to bear, and in 1989, she made the brave decision to leave and start a new life.
Imagine you have two children, you're a mother, you're a mom. Can you imagine leaving your children behind? So the situation must have been so dire for her in order for her to do that. And then also, since she's leaving an abusive relationship, I don't believe that she had the means to take her children with her. And then I know a lot of women that are in these types of relationships that do have children, they remain in that situation because of the children and they remain in the house because they don't have no way to support themselves themselves as well as the children. So can you imagine the impact that it had on her to make this decision to leave her children behind?
Sadly, she couldn't take her two young children, Catherine, 4 years old, and Curtis, 3 years old, with her. fearing rejection from her own mother due to their biracial identity. So she entrusted them to their father, Curtis Sr.
Oh, so that's why she didn't take her children? Because well, I'm assuming she moved in with her mom, and her mom wasn't appreciative of the biracial children, and that's why she. But still, it takes a lot of courage to leave your children behind.
At the time, Stacy believed she was doing what was best for her children, but little did she know the turmoil that would ensue. The family dynamic shifted as what was once a foursome became a trio, and the children learned to adapt and cherish their father's love and attention. But even that newfound stability was soon threatened as the family faced new challenges. The developments after Stacy's departure from Curtis in 1989 are somewhat hazy, but by 1994, Stacy noticed something was amiss with her children. In the 5 years since she left Florida for Kansas, a male relative of Curtis had moved in with him and the children. At first glance, this may seem like a typical living arrangement for family members, but this particular relative was far from typical.
Yeah, so be mindful of who you invite into your home, especially if you have children. You invite them into your home and then they move in and they're living there. So be mindful of that, because this character that moved into this home was a straight up monster. He have a history, a criminal history, and he also have a history of some kind of sexual deviancy or sexual something, and he was a PDF file. So that type of person, this type of person, you definitely do not want to be in your home around your young little boy and your young little girl.
With a criminal history that included robbery and a conviction for sexual crimes involving a 14-year-old girl, this individual was a registered pedophile by 1993. In 1994, during a holiday visit to their mother in Kansas, Curtis Jr. confided in Stacy about the abuse he was suffering at the hands of their relative. As the only other male in the household, Curtis Jr. was forced to share a room with this individual and reported being fondled by the older man. It's unclear if Catherine was also subject to similar abuse, but she may have remained silent at this time. Following Curtis's disclosure, reports were made and an investigation was launched. However, the case was ultimately closed after Curtis Jr. recanted his statement, likely due to fear or coercion. This misstep marked a turning point in the situation and set the stage for things to spiral out of control. If any of the parties involved, including Curtis, his parents, or the authorities, had acted differently, the outcome might have been vastly different.
Yeah, so too, because that person that moved in, and I believe he felt empowered, because now the child came forth, and he did tell an adult figure, and he also the system. The system just totally failed these children, just totally failed them all along. So that empowered that person that was living in the household that was inflicting this type of abuse on these children. He felt empowered that he can get away with it, and he just felt so comfortable because the system didn't believe the children, and the father didn't believe the children. It's like he just turned a blind eye to it, and if the children did go to him and tell him what was going on, he didn't believe him. He believed that other adult. So I don't believe. Hey, it doesn't matter if your child come to you and tell you a story like that something is happening behind your back in your own house, up under your roof. At least investigate. That's the least you can do. What can you lose by just investigating for yourself and finding out, instead of dismissing what you have been told by your own child in your own house?
Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and a tragedy was just on the horizon. During this time, Curtis and Catherine continued to endure physical and sexual abuse, with brief moments of speaking out and seeking justice. In 1996, 2 years after the first investigation, another case was opened regarding Curtis's.
I just want to say, I guess they wasn't in contact with the mother, because I haven't heard about them reaching out to their mother and saying anything. And then even if they did, what could she have been done? What could she have done, or was she even in a position to even do anything? I mean, these children, the whole system, everybody felt them.
Bruises and swollen eye. The extent of this investigation and any resultant actions are unclear. However, based on the fact that the abuse persisted in the household, it is unlikely that meaningful progress was made. Just prior to the murder, in September of 1998, another investigation was launched. This time, it was regarding Catherine, who at the age of 13 had run away from home. Her school teacher, concerned for her well-being, reported suspicions that Catherine was being sexually abused. The investigation found some evidence of sexual abuse, but like previous investigations, it was cut short. Catherine had tried to tell her father about the abuse, but he didn't believe her and took the side of the relative in question. By the time the investigation started, Curtis Sr. had intimidated Catherine into lying to authorities and denying that the abuse had taken place. Fearful of being separated from her family, Catherine complied, and the investigation.
Just look at her. She just looks so sweet and innocent. Why couldn't he just protect his children? Why? I don't get it.
Was terminated.
And it takes a lot for a child to come and tell you these things, because a lot of children, they won't. They're fearful, and for the simple fact they feel that they will not be believed, as this is the case. But these children spoke out, and they were still rejected.
Although the investigation wasn't as thorough as many believed it should have been, investigators reportedly warned Curtis Sr. about the relative living with the family, given their criminal history and the danger they posed to the children.
So he have been told, he was aware. Now, I haven't heard of the father doing any kind of hanky-panky with his children, but it really just makes me wonder. They have a daughter, a daughter, as well as a male child, but a daughter in particularly living in the house with another male, whether a relative. It doesn't say who the relative was, but it just amazes me that you have to be careful. You definitely have to be careful.
Children. While the Jones household managed to avoid trouble in the form of an investigation, problems within the family continued to escalate. Both Curtis and Catherine were still being sexually abused by the relative, and their father and his girlfriend, Nicole Speights, who had begun living with the family, seemed to be indifferent to the situation. The siblings found solace and comfort in each other, with Catherine confiding in Curtis that he was the only one who believed her when she revealed the sexual abuse she had suffered at the hands of their relative. Curtis revealed that he believed her because he too had been a victim. Catherine's breaking point came a few days after the last investigation was closed. While she was taking a shower, the relative in question entered the bathroom, opened the shower curtains, and began masturbating. Catherine was deeply traumatized.
That is deeply sickening. That is just sickening. And you see how comfortable he was doing it? Poor child. That's not a good way to live. For any child to live, that's not good.
After the incident, and sobbed in the corner of the bathroom. The relative left 50 cents on the toilet seat for her after he was finished. In her diary, Catherine wrote, "I'm going to kill everyone." She was frustrated that her father and his girlfriend were ignoring her and her brother's cries for help, and therefore concluded that they deserved to die along with their abuser. Catherine eventually confided in Curtis about her desire to end the lives of the adults, and they began plotting to carry out their plan. They wanted to free themselves from their torment by killing the relative and prevent future abuse by killing those they believed allowed it to happen in the first place. On January 6, 1998, the siblings' plan was put into action.
1998, but right here it said January 6, 1999.
Their father was briefly away from the house, and the relative was not expected to return until later that evening. The children were home alone with Nicole, and they hoped to encounter minimal resistance by killing one person at a time with no one else in the house. Sonya Nicole Speights, 29.
Mind you, these are children. I think, let me see, 12 and 13, I believe.
Was sitting at the dining room table working on a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle while the children went to retrieve their weapon of choice, their father's 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Catherine fired the first shot, hitting Nicole in the stomach. However, she dropped the gun due to the recoil of the shot. Curtis picked up the gun and fired wildly, shooting at Nicole and everything around her. All 9 bullets were fired, 4 of which fatally wounded Nicole. After the shots were fired, Curtis panicked at the realization that he had killed someone. Quote, "This wasn't just some fantasy in our heads anymore. It was real," Catherine said in an interview.
Once again, this is reality now. This isn't some idea that's in our head anymore. This is reality.
Catherine tried to calm her brother down, and the siblings attempted to clean up the crime scene. They moved Nicole's body from the dining room and attempted to clean up the blood with bleach. They then attempted to make the scene look like a robbery had taken place before fleeing the house. They stopped briefly at their neighbor's house to say that they had accidentally shot the gun. With the loose ends tied up to the best of their ability, Catherine and Curtis went into hiding in the woods near their house. It is uncertain who called the authorities about Nicole's passing. However, it is believed to have been the neighbors whom Curtis and Catherine confessed to, or Curtis's father, who discovered Nicole's dead body upon returning home. Regardless, the police were notified and initiated an investigation. This was the only investigation into the events at the Jones household that produced tangible results. Based on the neighbors' eyewitness accounts implicating Curtis and Catherine, the police launched a search for the children. On the morning of January 7, 1999, Curtis and Catherine were found in the woods near their home. Now faced with the consequences of their actions at the ages of 12 and 13, they became the young.
Just imagine the children in the woods. I believe they was in there for a couple hours or overnight. Can you imagine their thought process, what was going through their mind? I bet you they was probably so scared, cold, and hungry.
Youngest individuals ever charged with adult first-degree murder. If found guilty, they faced life in prison. But due to their young age, the prosecutors offered a deal for second-degree murder, which carried a sentence of 18 years in prison, followed by a lifetime of probation.
Now, a lifetime of probation is just diabolical. If they get 18 years each in prison and then they get out, that means they're still in prison, so to speak. They're still in the system and still need being watched over. Talking about a lifetime probation, these are little children. And then what makes it so sad is that during the in the trial, none of this abuse came out. It wasn't even a factor that was considered into their sentencing. So I think even that system failed the children, and they accepted, I don't know under who advice. Well, I see 2 white guys right there, and they felt them too. They felt them too. They was just after, well, take the plea deal and would just be done with it. But at the same token, none of, how can you, what kind of defense was this? And they didn't even bring up the abuse allegations or anything.
Children, inexperienced and frightened, accepted the deal without a proper trial, and no evidence or witnesses were presented. Catherine and Curtis remained silent about the abuse they suffered, likely fearing that their accounts would not be believed.
Now, if anything, that was the time to say something. At least, bring it to the forefront. They done spoke up and spoke out long before all this came to fruition. But when the time came for them to speak for other people to hear their side of the story, or perhaps the jury and the judge or whatever, they were silent. So these people, they was traumatized. By then, they was traumatized. Why speak up? They wasn't believed. They never was believed.
The general belief was that they killed Nicole out of jealousy for taking their father's attention away and his plans to marry her. However, their lawyer, Alan Landman, stated that had he known about the abuse, they might have had a better chance of securing a lighter sentence. On the other hand, Todd Goodyear, an official at the Brevard County Sheriff,
they could have been out by a lighter sentence, and also that relative could have been prosecuted and thrown up under the jail, because he's just sick. That's absolutely sick.
Sheriff's Office believed that their actions were indefensible and that they had to take responsibility for their choices. In August 1999, at the ages of 13 and 14.
And look how young she is. Okay, so they're 13 and 14, and look how young she is. This is just too much pressure for a young girl. Look. This is how the system failed these kids here. And it's going on to this day.
Curtis and Catherine were each sentenced to 18 years in prison and lifetime probation.
Look, she just looked like a scared little baby.
The siblings' lives in prison were relatively uneventful for most of their first 10 years behind bars. However, in 2004, Curtis experienced a brief period of freedom when Hurricane Francis caused damage to the facility where he was being held at the age of 19. Along with several other teenagers, Curtis escaped the juvenile detention center, but they were recaptured just 24 hours later. As a result, Curtis's sentence was extended by 318 days. 5 years later, in 2009, the truth about the circumstances surrounding the murder came to light during an interview with Florida Today newspaper. Catherine revealed that she and her brother had been sexually abused, and their frustration led to the murder of Nicole. Although Catherine expressed remorse for taking Nicole's life, she also admitted that she felt relieved when she went to prison, saying, quote, "I know it sounds really messed up, but there was a point where I was away from all that, and I was by myself and I was safe."
Yet she didn't have to worry about the PDF file creeping into her bedroom every night.
Catherine also revealed in the interview that she had only seen her brother once since they were incarcerated. The siblings used to communicate by mail, but this stopped when Curtis was moved to a different prison facility, as the warden deemed it unacceptable for the two to communicate as co-defendants in the case. Ramos Fleming, a U.S. Navy senior, read a 2009 story about Catherine's experiences and was touched by them. He reached out to her in writing, and the two became pen pals. They developed a romance through their letters and got married in November 2013 at the Hernando Correctional Institute Chapel. Catherine was 28 years old when she married Ramos. In preparation for Catherine's eventual release from prison, Ramos soon made plans and adjustments to better support his wife, including retiring from his role as a naval officer to allow himself more time to help her
She has such a beautiful smile. All the trauma that she endured, and she have that beautiful smile. She have a special light in her. And I pray that her life, now that she is free, that she's living a life that is foster happiness, health and well-being. I wish that for her as well as her brother. Her brother kind of you'll see a picture of him coming up. He kind of looked like he'd been through the ringer, And now he's a minister. Okay, that's all well and good, but the spirits that was in, I'm not going to say entered, but the spirit that was around these children could have future influence on them in their future actions. So I just pray that him being a pastor, that he is delivered from whatever contrary spirit that may have entered him as a young child growing up, and also during the years when he was in prison.
Transition to life outside prison, as much had changed since she was 13. Catherine and Curtis served over 85.
See, look, he just look, he all the hell he been through, man. And who know what kind of stuff he been through in prison. She look like she's okay, but looks can be deceiving. But you can definitely see that she has a bit more life in her eyes, albeit it may be a little out there, but at least she look like she have life. Her brother, he just look like he's flat.
5% of their original sentence and were released from prison in 2015.
Look like their life has just been sucked out of him. And can you blame him all the crap he been through? I mean, he's a male. He's a young black male at that. Being, what can I say? Invaded come to mind. But that's not the word that I'm looking for. Taken advantage of. I can't. The word I'm looking for start with an I, but he had to endure that. And he's a male, and under the hands of another male, a grown man.
Catherine was released 2 weeks before Curtis, and both were aged 30 and 29. Curtis became an ordained Christian minister, while Catherine went after a traditional life. Catherine's marriage with Ramos did not work out, but she received a scholarship for school and is working to advocate for fair sentencing.
She definitely has a light on her. She has a beautiful, her countenance is real beautiful.
Of young people. Both siblings are adapting to life outside prison and following the rules of their probation. This case was truly a tragic event in both siblings' lives, but also as a learning experience for the justice system.
Yeah, and I pray that I don't even know if we got any better because the system still this is a lot better. It's a little bit more stringent than it was back in the 90s. Now parents can be arrested and children can be removed from their home, which they should have been removed from their home when they got all those reports. So I'm going to read, okay, so the comments are turned off. So I'm going to go back over here to my main cam and I am going to sign out. And again, shout out to Crime Fool for this here. And I'm going to subscribe because I like stories like that. All right. Okay. So, yeah, we got to protect our children. We're all that they have, and they're such, they look to us, they look towards their parents for guidance, for protection, for love, for support. And if they're not getting that and they're missing, then they can go astray. They can find it from somewhere else outside the house, or they can internalize everything and just have that deep-seated hatred and discontent and dislike, all those emotions so pent up until they can finally pop and they can do what these brothers and sisters did. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for watching my video, and shout out to my new subscribers. And with that, I am done, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, I'm out. Be blessed, y'all.